But for me, at a very young age, because we were immigrants, we started poor, I was bullied a lot, made fun of. My mom gave me a bowl haircut. I wore the same clothes every day. That's the story, right? We're immigrants. But when I worked out in the basement, it was never to be bigger than anybody or better than anybody or be a pro athlete. It was about, when I worked out, I was always free.
Just to get a clearer understanding of what is longevity training.
The way we define it at the Lift Lounge is longevity is basically buying your time back, right? Because at the end of the day, time is our greatest commodity, right? And we can't get it back, right? It's going, that clock is ticking. If you really strip back and you take away the ego and you take away your favorite things and you realize fitness hasn't evolved in 50 years. It's either a rock on a stick, a lot of running and jumping, or laying on your back and flowing and going, right? Those are really the three categories, and now all we do is evolve it, add more lights, bigger screens, louder music, but the stimulus, the thing that starts to slow down after 30 is not changing.
This is the Recovery Guide podcast with Michael Herbert, where powerful stories and actionable insights empower individuals on their recovery journey to build resilience and make a lasting impact. I'm glad you're here, so let's get started. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. Kai Evans is the founder of the Lift Lounge and a renowned strength and performance coach known for his transformative, science-backed training approach. With years of experience helping clients build their strength, confidence, and consistency, Kai blends mindset, movement, and accountability to create life-changing results inside and outside of the gym. This is a high-impact conversation that will leave you energized and motivated. We're here today with Kai Evans from the Lift Lounge. And I guess, the interesting thing about being with you today, you are my first guest on my podcast. And I believe I was your first client at the Lift Lounge many years ago.
Well, that is correct. I remember the day you walked in. It was glorious. You kind of strolled in and you kind of looked at me and you're like, that was when we only had 3 pieces of equipment.
Yes.
They were prototypes. Mm-hmm. Internally, I had no idea what they were going to work. Yeah. And you walked in, and obviously you're a fit guy, and he was like, "What is this?" Remember that? You're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Why don't we just get on there and go do a session, right?" Remember that?
I had no idea of what to expect, and looking at that machine, this is going to be easy. Yeah. What is this? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And literally, it was the hardest machine I've ever been on. And I realized over time, you cannot beat that machine. There is no way I'm gonna master it and beat it and dominate it. It's always challenging.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the whole premise of longevity, right? Mm-hmm. Is the body is always in a state of adaptation, and either it's going to adapt in a good way if you stimulate it correctly, or it's not, or you're going to age very rapidly. And we know sarcopenia and osteoporosis and cognitive dysfunction and cardiovascular disease and all these things are raring up. Once 30 hits, you start losing force, peak force, power, muscle, and then bone goes, and it just keeps revving up, and every decade it gets exponentially, increases even faster. So when you look at what's going to happen to the body, you got to start thinking, okay, I got to put it in an environment that constantly challenges it and stimulates it, so it's always having to then adapt to some sort of stimulus, so then you can prevent what's naturally going to come, aging. You can't stop it.
So let me stop you here.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, just to get a clearer understanding of what is longevity training.
Great. Okay.
Just for the person who doesn't even know what that is, or even why it exists and why it has its meaning.
That's a great question, because you're seeing this word on everything now. Like 10 years ago, everything was functional. Functional training, functional training, functional training. Flipping tires is not functional unless you work for Goodyear. Like, I don't know how that's functional. Yeah. But so now the new word is longevity. Everything's longevity. Take this pill, you'll live to be 200. Okay, so the way we define it at the Lift Lounge is longevity is basically buying your time back. Right? Because at the end of the day, time is our greatest commodity, right? And we can't get it back, right? It's going, that clock is ticking. So once we defined that, then what I did is I basically interviewed, thousands of people and asked them, what are the 3 most important things to you after the age of 50. And they said, number one, I can't get hurt, because the number one thing that really you don't want after 50 is to get hurt. Because when you get hurt, it takes you out of the game.
You do not want to have a fall.
Correct.
The falls are what you're done.
The statistics are through the roof on those, right? So you don't want to get hurt when you train. Number two, time. Like the days when you're 20 and you're going 2-a-dayers and it's awesome, you burn out. You have more important things. You want to write a book. You want to see your kids. You want to travel. You want to, I don't know, paint. You want to do things because you spent the first half of your life building this wealth and this career, and you just don't have the time anymore to go 2-a-dayers. So time was number two.
Yeah.
And then the last thing was, because we work with 50 and up, these are all alphas, high performers, men and women, it has to be efficient in work. It has to work.
And let me just say something about that. There are times when I've gone to the lift lounge, because I can't see me, other people can see me, but I can see them. I'm like, what am I doing here with all these old people? And, you know, these people are old. You know, how is this gym going to be effective? And all you have to do is work out. And look through the corner of your eyes at a 65-year-old woman or a 70-year-old man doing the same exercises, the same movements I am, and holding it. And I do want you to talk about time under tension and what that means. It's just amazing what I can see, because the 65-year-old of today is not the 65-year-old that I remember when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, if you were 65, you were old. You know, today's 65-year-old is really young in some respects.
I would agree 100%. I think everything has shifted, like you said, and I think for the first part of your question is once I identified kind of what it is to live. Okay, so the two words that are buzzing right now is health span and lifespan. Health span is the quality of that moment-to-moment living. Lifespan is the length of your life. So the idea is you want the highest health span and the highest lifespan as you can. But if you had to choose, everyone always would choose quality over length, right? Who wants to be in a wheelchair and be 100 years old, right? There's no point, right? So when you understand those two ideas and you understand really what's the most important thing to people after 50, then I had to literally look at the entire fitness world. And if you really strip back and you take away the ego and you take away your favorite things and you realize fitness hasn't evolved in 50 years. It's either a rock on a stick, a lot of running and jumping, or laying on your back and flowing and going. Right? Those are really the three categories, and now all we do is evolve it, add more lights, bigger screens, louder music. But the stimulus, the thing that starts to slow down after 30 is not changing. So if you're a weightlifter, again, weights a bit. My degrees, my undergrad and graduate work, I love weights, strength and conditioning. But when you realize weights' job is to overload joints and underload muscle. And when you're younger, it's cool. Oh, I tweaked my shoulder, I'm getting big and all this. But as you age, the amount you have to lift to stimulate muscle growth is so much greater than the weight you can actually lift at that age. And it becomes risk versus reward. As soon as you get hurt, you're out of the game. And at 50, you won't go back on the horse. You'll just won't do it. You'll just walk, you'll row. So then sarcopenia is revving up, osteoporosis, all these things just keep revving up. So the first thing I did was when I was making the machine was we had to create an environment that maximized force, because the first thing you lose when you age isn't muscle, it's your peak force, your ability to apply peak force or velocity, right? The second thing then, if that goes, the fast twitch fiber goes, not to get fancy, it's your explosive fiber, then muscle starts to go. And then when muscle goes, what happens? Bone. And when bone goes, you don't want to move. Cardiovascular system goes down. You don't want to move, then you don't want to see people, you want to think, brain starts to slow down. And so everything just starts to rev up every decade. So coming back to the machine, I had to create a machine that if science dictates that the human body is 7 times stronger in the eccentric position when you're out here than the concentric, we're spending our lives underloading ourselves with weights, because if I were to put 700 pounds on a barbell, it would take my head off. But with our machines, these steel coils we use, our machine loads over 600 pounds, again, 6 to 1, 7 to 1, right? Now, at the peak contraction, you can finally stimulate the musculature and the central nervous system to increase your peak force and hypertrophy. And then when you're in that weakened position where your strain curve changes, your joints are fine. So we're actually increasing mobility around the joint with that lowering or that lessening of the weight. So now we're using what's called variable resistance versus static resistance weights to increase your strength, your force, your muscle, while maintaining much better proper joint health and joint function.
But I wonder, when you talk about over 50 and in changing what you do, I wonder what would have happened, because I know when I was younger, I'm in the gym, I'm lifting weights, probably not doing it correctly, created some injuries that have lasted me a lifetime. I just wonder if I was doing it the lift lounge way at 25, where would I be today?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the whole thing. When I started working with my engineer and trying to really taking all the literature on variable resistance and looking at, we don't just work with variable resistance, right? There's gymnastics element to this. There's a yoga element to this. There's a Pilates element to this. There's also a HIIT element as far as cardiovascular health, but without the pounding. Because people think HIIT is jumping and pounding. No, HIIT is just work-rest ratio, or getting your heart rate up and bringing it back down. Anything can be HIIT. And that's what we need for the cardiovascular system. We don't need this. We just need to get it up as high as we can, out of breath, and bring you back down. And that's why we work with so many different interval patterns and tempo and time and different situations and movement patterns that work, most importantly, the entire kinetic chain. And that's my biggest argument with the people that follow a bodybuilding training program. Will you build muscle? Of course you will. I'm not saying you won't. But if your goal is longevity, you'll see the science now. Even the bodybuilders are saying full body splits. Work the whole body together.
And you'll build muscle, but what about flexibility? What about the ability to move? I'm walking around with all this muscle. I'm limited in what I can do.
So that's a great question. So one of the biggest misconceptions is people think stretching increases flexibility. And the truth is, flexibility comes from your central nervous system. So the only way to increase your range of motion is to move under load. Right? Problem is, if it's a static load, you go too low, you probably mess up your lower back or your shoulder if you go too low behind the neck press or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So with the variable resistance that allows us to create maximum force at peak contraction while maintaining force, so the nervous system now is learning a new range of motion. So then when the nervous system is introduced to that, now you start to become more mobile or create more mobility, which then in turn turns into flexibility. Not saying stretching is bad. Stretching is a great thing. But if all you do is stretch, you don't move with load, you're not going to increase your range of motion. And at the end of the day, as we age, we lose range of motion due to injuries, due to being sedentary, due to improper form, all these things, right? So that was another thing I looked at. So when I looked at the training protocol for our, we call it VERTA right now, the working title, because we're still working on the patents. But I looked at 4 major pillars that have to occur in every group session. Number 1 is peak force, because that's what you lose first. And people think peak force is, it's actually the peak force to be able to stop. Braking is more important so you don't fall, right? You see how people drive in here. You got to be able to stop quickly and move out of the way when you're trying to crosswalk, right? So that's important. Peak force and hypertrophy, which is growing muscle. That's number 1, right? Because muscle is medicine, period, end of story. Number 2, we looked at proprioception, balance training, right? The body's ability to understand itself in time and space, which goes as we age. That's why we do so many things on top of the machine. And mobility, that's number 2. Number 3 is muscle endurance, the body's ability to fire against the variable over time. And of course, zone 2, cardio, which we can talk about the benefits of zone 2. Everyone talks about zone 2. It's very important for increasing your cardiovascular health. And last but not least, the thing that most things you can't get when you're doing the Pilates style, the yoga style, is that VO2 max hit. Kind of, you got to get up to that zone 5. You got to get that heart rate up. That's why we test that at the studio, the VO2 max. So those were the 4 things that, after looking at all the research everywhere, If you do those 4 things twice a week, you will check every box. And then if I can minimize the joint stress, home run. This is why you say this is so difficult, because every month we're changing the way the body interprets stimulus.
Yeah.
Not only is the weight constantly changing every rep, you're also changing the way your central nervous system and your cardiovascular system. Sometimes we're holding for 30 seconds, isometrics. Sometimes we're doing explosive fast reps. Sometimes we're doing very slow reps. But we're always changing that, because isn't that what's happening to the nervous system in life? And as we age, it's constantly having to adapt. So if I put you in a position of always having to adapt, you're going to continue to get better and stronger and move better and feel better mentally, physically, emotionally. And it's our max workouts 3 times a week. That's all we allow, because we do want you to understand recovery. If you're into red light, saunas, plunges.
But I got to tell you, there is something addictive about that workout, because I was going 3 times a week, and I wanted to go more. And unlike the other workouts I've done, I've never really wanted to go more. And I don't know if it was the oxygen in the brain. I don't know what it was that, like, physically, I want to get back in there. I want to do some more stuff. As painful as it was. But let me ask you something. How did this all start for you? How did you get in the fitness industry? First of all, where are you from?
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. So my father's from Macedonia, and my mother's from Serbia. So I always say I'm Serbian because mom, right? Dad will like that, but whatever. They immigrated here when they were 10-ish. They met at a soccer. What's Eastern Europeans? They made a soccer in church, right? That's all we had back in the day. And I was blessed to have a father who was always into activity. He wasn't a bodybuilder. He wasn't but he just really was like, he bought me a bench at 10 years old. And so I literally was the first kid in my neighborhood that had weights. So it's funny, even at that age, like I'd have my friends come over, and I wasn't the guy trying to be like, I'm not the story, like I want to be Arnold. No, I wanted to be like the old guy in Rocky, that guy. I wanted to make Rocky. Like I wanted to be Burgess Meredith, like, Mickey. I was like, come on over, I'm going to train today, And so I would be screaming at him and yelling at him. And, so I was always into the science of exercise, not for the performance benefits, although I love the performance benefits. And when I worked in the NBA, I was all about getting performance out of my top athletes. But for me,
you snuck that in the NBA. What were
NBA,
you doing with the NBA?
Yeah. I just trained an NBA athlete. That's a whole nother part of my life. I'll tell you how I got that, and it's a testament to understanding art. Being an artist, right? Because I don't think of myself as a trainer. I'm an exercise scientist, and more importantly, an exercise artist. And that's how I look at it. Because I take that creative approach to everything. I think that's really important. And I think that's what's missing is in fitness today. It's all about the gram, and it's all about peptides, and it's all about 2% body fat, and it's all about likes. But for me, at a very young age, because we were immigrants, we started poor. I was bullied a lot, made fun of. My mom gave me a bowl haircut. I wore the same clothes every day. Like that's the story, right? We're immigrants. But when I worked out in the basement, it was never to be bigger than anybody or better than anybody or be a pro athlete. It was about, when I worked out, I was always free. It gave me a feeling that I could be anything, and I was free. And for that hour of the day, I wasn't getting swirlied at school. I wasn't, getting yelled at for not doing my homework. I wasn't, the kid who couldn't read very well because of his English and stuff. So that expression, to me, fitness is the greatest form of a human expression.
And let me just, the other thing that you said that really stood out for me, which I relate to in my work, is you identified yourself as an artist and the importance of creativity. I mean, that says it all. I mean, I'm a trainer is limited. But I'm an artist, and this is an art. And I am creative in how I practice my art. I mean, that's just.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really drawn to that.
Thank you.
That's
The Lift Lounge, especially the workout, it has to feel like a dance. A dance of your expression. And that's why everyone has their own machine. So you're in your own little world, yet you have 6 or 5 people that you can feel the energy for that are fighting with you, but you then have your space to create, to move, to express, to clear your head. I mean, that was the approach I wanted, because I think something happens too as we age and we get married and we have kids and we go through ups and downs and divorces, is we lose our play, our sense of play. Right? And then play comes from movement, right? Movement is the ultimate drug. You move, you feel, you express, you create, you're happy. It's a really simple idea. So when I was looking at all this and creating these 45-minute semi-private sessions, it comes from that place of understanding that everybody has the right to express their body. Everybody has the right to move. Everybody has the right to feel, and everybody has the right to be their best self, to like really tap into, because most of us are living at what is the percentage of the brain? If we use 20% in a lifetime, that's huge. Yeah. And same with your body. I mean, I heard a statistic yesterday. Peter Attia was saying that 15% was, now I'll mess this up a little bit, but it was really stifling. He said something like, out of all the people that strength train or have memberships at gyms or studios, only 15% go. I mean, that's scary.
That is scary. You know, one of the things that I think of, I have these kind of odd thoughts.
Yeah.
I wonder if you looked at man today, the guy who goes to the gym pretty regularly, if you compared him with primitive man and what primitive man had to do every day just to survive, primitive man would be head over foot over Joe Blow, who goes to the gym regularly, with they had to run down food.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And everything was a workout. And now, an hour a day, 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah. Or you go to the gym, a half hour there. You really kind of don't know what to do. So you lift light because you don't want to get hurt.
Right.
So you're doing a lot of reps.
And a lot of talking to the guy next to you.
Take a picture if you're one of those. You get a water, walk around. 2 hours later,
everybody's got their camera now at the gym now. Everybody's filming themselves. I don't know if they're trainers or what. But
I that's why we don't allow cameras in the unless there's a business phone call. We don't allow phones in the space, because it really needs to be a place where you can. I use the word deep work, where you do the deep work on yourself.
Yeah.
And when your body is when your full body is under stress, not just doing a bicep curl, but when you're like you said, head to toe, when your full body is lit, and you're trying to balance, stabilize, move at a certain tempo, what you're doing is you're increasing the dopamine, the serotonin, and you're actually increasing your prefrontal cortex as well. Those are the 3 biggest things that happens when you resistance train to your decision-making part of your brain. You're having to just decide, drop in, and express yourself, because I was very in grad school. I was obsessed with this idea of flow state. Why do athletes tap into this and the average person can't have that? I want my mom to be in flow, because if not, she's always pissed off and mad. Serbians, they got a temper. So I started to really read a bunch of books by Steven Kotler. He's the world expert in flow state. And so he says that the athletes that have flow the most are the ones that jump out of planes, big wave surf, the life or death athletes. Right. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm chicken shit. Yeah. So then I got into like, how high, this is actually a true story. The machines, how high do I need to make them? When you're on top of it, you have a little bit of that, oh God, oh God. Not to the point where, oh God, I'm going to die, but oh God, I could fall.
Yeah.
And that's what drops you into that almost meditative state. And then you drop in that constant tension, and then the tempo changes, slow to fast, to hold, to slow to fast, to super slow, to super fast, to hold. And now your brain and your nerves and your body is now a symphony, and just producing the greatest amount of hormones. I believe when flow state hits the body, and it's why you want to come back so much, because your joints don't hurt and you're in flow. It's, serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, is it anandamide? Am I saying that correctly? Anandamide. Those are the 5 hormones, and they each can be acquainted to actually drugs. Like one's like coke, one's like heroin, but it's all 5 hitting the same time, and that's what that high is. These big wave surfers, and so I wanted to come up with an environment to at least get that kind of sensation for my clients. So you'll notice the machines are the highest in the industry, in the machine world, above the ground, but to a point where, even the cushioning, I went through so many different cushions because I wanted it soft enough where you had to balance, but not too soft like a Bosu ball where you can't create force.
Okay.
So if you can't create force, you can't get strong. That's why I would never put a client on a Bosu ball like a dumbbell. It's pointless.
Yeah.
Do you want to get stronger or do you want to work balance? You can't, it doesn't work together.
You can't.
It's
and
stupid.
they put you on that like that
all the time, and it's just useless, completely useless. When you realize the simplicity of what really works, and that's another thing I did was I looked at every possible exercise on the planet after 30 years of this industry, and I whittled it down to 50. So what that does from a client perspective is you start to develop a skill set. Because when you have a skill set, what happens? Confidence goes up. And when you have confidence, what happens? You go harder. And if you have a skill set and confidence, you go harder, then all I got to do is mess with the load, progressive overload. And guess what? You don't get hurt because you know what you're doing, and you go heavier and harder every single time, right? And so that was the whole thing, was like why these movements I looked at functionality of the spine, the hips, the shoulders, the ankle, the knee, everything that's going to kind of start to go as we age. And I wanted to pick movements that'll help create better tissue tolerance on the joints and all that kind of stuff. So that was one of the things I wanted to do too, is I wanted to simplify it, because my favorite saying is variety is the death of progress when it comes to strength training. You don't need all these new moves like some of these brands. New move day. Like, why? Like, give me a steak. I don't need like liquefied tofu and tell me it's a steak because it's new. Like, I want a steak, right? Or whatever it is, right? And when you realize that, you also don't need to do the big move. You don't need to deadlift anymore. You don't need the back squat. You don't need to put a barbell on your back. And this is being proven now over and over again. Yes, you need to squat. Yes, you need to lunge. Actually, you need to lunge more than you squat, because unless you're hopping through life like a kangaroo, which I don't think we are. Like, that's why I'm not a big fan of all the crawling stuff. Like, if you're gonna spend your life on all fours, you should do the animal work for sure. But if you're gonna be on 2 feet, you better do lunges, because that's what you're gonna spend your life on, right? Nothing against that work if you're jujitsu, if you're an athlete that needs that. But as a human being for longevity, so our studio is an 80% lunge to a 20% squat ratio, because lunging, single leg work, is what we do in life.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because we're getting ready to wrap up. I do want to ask you quickly, can you tell me about grip strength?
Oh, grip
and
strength.
The importance of grip strength.
The magic elixir of longevity.
Yeah.
Okay, so grip strength is a proxy. And so the better your grip strength, and there's tons of literature. They're even trying to acquaint it to cognitive health, preventing Alzheimer's. But grip strength, in my opinion, there does 3 things. Number 1, it's a proxy. If you have a strong grip, I can make a very accurate assumption that you probably have a pretty strong arm, shoulder, and upper body. So that'll tell me right away if you're able to push and pull, hold yourself up, okay, just by your grip strength. So number 1, it's a proxy for your strength in your upper body. Number 2, obviously the obvious, if you have a good grip strength, if you're falling, you'll be able to catch yourself, hopefully. And number 3, and this is why I believe why they're starting to say it equates to cognitive health or Alzheimer's, is what's the first thing in the world? Your hands. The more you use your hands, the more your brain has to operate. So there's a connection between constantly using your hands and your brain. And I believe there's a lot of studies showing people that play cards and dominoes and all this kind of stuff, their brain functions at a much higher level than those that don't use their hands in certain things. So grip, for me, and those are the 3 things I look at. If the grip strength is high, it's going to tell me they're pretty strong in the upper body. They can grab themselves when they fall, and that they're using their hands in their life, helping their brain function, because your hands are, again, telling your brain what the hell's going on when you grab something. What's cold, it's hot. It's going, your nervous system's telling your brain, hot, cold, heavy, light, rigid, soft, whatever. So the more we want you, dexterity, we want you using your hands as much as possible in life to keep that brain functioning. Same reason why we train in special socks, because I want the bottom of your feet always signaling to the brain what's happening at all times, because your feet and your hands are where you are in the world, right? And this is why we're about to start I'm going to start really drilling down on Achilles and calf work soon, because I don't want anyone getting an Achilles rupture, because that takes us out after 50. So again, the feet and hands are huge, but that is really the 3 major points of why grip strength is becoming such a great proxy for lifespan.
Okay. So, Kai, how can our audience get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you, the Lift Lounge?
Oh my gosh.
What would they?
Okay, well, you can go to the website. It's www.theliftlounge.vip because everyone's a VIP. And we just redid it, so it's really specific on longevity. One of the things I think, besides the most unique training environment you've ever been in, I think we test. So we have the VO2 mass test that the doctors are using, the medical grade. We do the muscle, bone, we do grip, we do force assessments. So we are constantly testing every 3 months to make sure that we're not guessing like this is working. Because as you age, you may not physically see it right away, but if you're up a pound of muscle, we're winning, right? We're winning, beating sarcopenia, right? Right? We know your bones are getting better. If your grip's up in a month, we know that your upper body's getting stronger, right? So we're always constantly, I say, we don't guess, we test. That makes us very unique. And I think what's very unique too is that we're private. So you come in, you interview us, we interview you, and we see if you're a good fit, because the classes are 6-on-1 or 4-on-1 or 1-on-1. That's it. And the four major, without question, ultimate drugs for longevity. It's not a pill, it's not a blue drop, it's not some 180-degree room, which actually I like. Number one is exercise. Nothing can beat exercise. Period. End of story.
Yep.
Lift heavy, lift often, but just make sure you know what you're doing, right? Number two, obviously, is going to be nutrition, what you put in your body, right? Number three, and it's free, people, sleep. 7 to 8 hours, not 6. 7 to 8. 7 is a sweet spot. 8 if you can get it, but take 7, right? And last but not least, this. Social. And so there was a great study done in Japan, and that's what I built the room on, is the same 5 people, that's why we started out as 5, right? We were 3, then we were 5, met 3 times a week, and that group lived an extra, it's on Blue Zones, I think it was 10 years longer than people that never met. So seeing familiar faces, so that's why when you come in, you take a class, you see the same people, you start to again become more social. And that's one of my favorite things is someone comes in kind of closed, they come in with injuries, they had a bad experience somewhere else, and then they start seeing people and they start talking, and all of a sudden these relationships are building. And that's why we call it a lounge. It's not a gym, it's not a studio, it is a lounge, almost like a speakeasy feel. There's no desks or dividing us. So the idea is go online, sign up for an NSI, signs for No Sweat Intro. You come in, we do 30 minutes, we sit down, we talk, we hash out your dreams, your goals, we do the testing, and then you do a actual movement assessment, and then we create a prescription for you on the best plan to reach those goals if we fit. And then you just dive in and you start living a healthier, longer, better life.
Great.
I do have a couple of gifts. Should we talk about that?
Sure. What do you have?
Okay. All right. So Michael, I love Michael. Michael was my first client. He believed in us when we were literally 3 duct tape machines in an 800 square foot room. It was literally a kitchen table. Remember, there was a table and 3, and it was my partner and me and Michael. And now we're on our 4th iteration of the equipment. Now we went from 1 suite to all 3. We have the whole bottom floor, and we don't advertise. It's just people talking about this.
Word of mouth is the best way to do it.
This movement of longevity. So I don't know how they'll get to you, but we're going to be giving away a free one-on-one with me, which is a $300 value, and you get to try the newest Verta, the version 4.5 with me, and really understand what longevity training is. And we're also giving away 1 group spot in our Catalyst product, our Catalyst class, which is a $70 value. So for your listeners, whoever you decide who's going to do what, but I would love to give that to your listeners. Because I love what you do, and we love you, and Lift Lounge, you help us build the place. I mean, your support and all your friends you bring in your friends, and he kicks their ass. He's smirking. He goes, "I want to bring this guy. I can't wait." And then you have one hand and things, and they're like,
"It's all my ego." I want to show them, how strong I am.
You really are.
In comparison to them. And listen, I'm a 66-year-old man.
You look amazing.
So I'm doing the best I can. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm at Recovery Guide at YouTube. Also, Coach Michael Herbert on Instagram and Recovery Guide on Facebook.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, the Lift Lounge, Instagram and all that. Oh, let me give you the address too. If you ever drive by, you can't miss us. It's 405 Southeast 6th Avenue, Suite 101, Delray Beach. Drive by, you'll see the lion. The lion is the emblem of Macedonia. Alexander the Great rode a lion in the battle. So Jody always loved that image, my partner. And so we kind of took a different take on the lion, but you see the white lion in the window.
Yeah.
I call him the longevity lion.
Longevity lion.
Yep. And so that's us. What an honor and a pleasure. I mean, I didn't even get into the whole. We gotta have me back, man.
I'll get you back for your drug story.
Yeah, we gotta talk about how
your recovery.
Yes, how I did it on my own through movement.
Yeah.
Because the Eastern European mind, they like figure it out.
Yeah,
so.
and just on a side note, that's an interesting story, because not everybody goes through treatment or the 12 steps.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, whatever works. If you can find a solution for an addiction problem and it works for you, go for it.
Yeah, mine was really a self-esteem problem, and I was masking, and I was in Hollywood with all the actors. I was starting training them, and they're doing it, so I want to fit in, and then I just didn't have the money or I was all by myself, and I just kept doing it and felt crazy.
And I got to tell you, you mentioned Sylvester Stallone, but you didn't tell us how you worked with Sylvester Stallone. We're going to save that for the next episode.
I was blessed. Yes. Hey, Sly. I wanted to be Mickey, but I ended up actually meeting and working as my boss, Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that NBC show. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks. This episode is sponsored by Guardian Recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction or mental health challenges, Guardian can help. Visit guardianrecovery.com or call the number below for confidential support and guidance.